Hey there, this is a special follow-up to episode 5 of Tales of Sports Foolishness, which was about James Naismith and the birth of basketball. It was a video that took an enormous amount of work and an enormous amount of research, and I'm really proud of it, and if you haven't seen it already, you should go watch it. Also, you should like and comment and subscribe and blah 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 blah, you know the drill. Anyway, there was something I learned about the invention of basketball in the course of my research that I found really interesting, but I didn't include it in that video because I thought if I had done that, it would have been too distracting. I thought it would have taken away from the point of the video because it's like too interesting. But I also didn't want to not mention it because it deserves to be mentioned, and so I'm gonna do it here in this bonus video. Okay, so as I was doing my research on James Naismith, I was watching all these videos that Springfield College had put together about their own history, because Springfield College is where James Naismith invented the sport of basketball. And yet, in all the videos that I saw that they put together, they never showed the gym where Naismith invented the game and where it was played for the first time, which I found very weird because at Springfield College, they have all these exhibits and artifacts about Naismith, and they're really proud of the fact that Naismith created basketball as a member of Springfield College, as you'd expect. So you'd also think that they'd want to show off where he actually did it, and yet they never do, which I found very bizarre. And so I was wondering why that was the case when I discovered the answer on Springfield College's archive site in the description of a photo of the building where Naismith invented basketball. And in the description that I found, it goes into this big rigmarole about what the building's name was and what it was used for, and eventually it says, quote, "The original building was torn down in 1965 to create a parking lot." Now, that alone is remarkable to me, because by 1965, basketball had existed for over 70 years, and the Basketball Hall of Fame had already been established. So you'd think that they'd have wanted to preserve the building where James Naismith both thought up basketball and played it for the first time. You'd think that they'd want to celebrate that, especially since basketball is one of the only sports in all of existence, and by far the biggest one, where you can actually say, we know the exact place where it was invented. And yet, they were like, this building sucks, just blow it up, we don't need it anymore. So, the building gets torn down, and for 3 decades, the birthplace of basketball was just a parking lot. Kind of like how the bunker where Hitler committed suicide was turned into a parking lot. For 30 years, the birthplace of basketball was given the same treatment as Hitler. Until 1995, when, as that photo description continues, quote, "In 1995, McDonald's Corporation bought the land, excavating the original foundation and bricks before building a restaurant on the site. Today, there is a monument commemorating the site as the birthplace of basketball." And when I read that, I was like, what? Because in all my research about the first basketball game, no one ever mentioned that. That was not something people talked about. Perhaps because it's kind of ridiculous. Like, as of this video, I could not find a single news article or webpage or YouTube video that actually mentions that fact in its title. And yet, when I looked it up, just in case, sure enough, that photo description is for real. Basketball was invented on the corner of State and Sherman in Springfield, Massachusetts. And if you look up what's on that address now, it is indeed a McDonald's that's adjacent to Springfield College. Which is crazy, because again, you would think that between the NBA, the Basketball Hall of Fame, and Springfield College, one of those groups would have felt like preserving this real estate. this is the only plot of land on Earth where you can say that one of the 3 biggest sports in the world was definitively invented there. And yet, that plot of land was so disregarded for so long that it was a parking lot for 3 decades, and now is a McDonald's. And it explains why Springfield College has to be a little precise in how they advertise their connection to James Naismith, because they can say that Naismith invented basketball at Springfield College, and that's true, historically. But they cannot say that if you go to their campus right now, you are visiting the place where that happened, because that's technically not true. The actual location where he both created basketball and where the first game ever was played is the nearby McDonald's. Somehow, one of the most sacred sports locations in the world, the genesis of everything from Michael Jordan to LeBron James to Fergie's national anthem rendition to that scene in Gundam Wing where Hiro Yui lays down a vicious dunk for no reason, to that scene in Deadly Friend where a woman is killed with a basketball, to the Final Fantasy VII Super Dunk minigame, to the fact that if you live in a suburban neighborhood right now, there is a 90% chance that you live within walking distance of someone who has a basketball hoop in their driveway. All of that, every moment in your life and every moment in everyone's life that has ever involved a basketball, all of that can be traced back to this location that is currently being used to serve the McRib. All of which is to say that if you're ever in the Springfield area, and if you ever make the pilgrimage over to the Basketball Hall of Fame, or to Springfield College to see their basketball exhibits, if you truly want to complete your experience, if you truly want to say that you have walked in the footsteps of giants, you should take a quick detour and visit the actual location where basketball was born, the Mason Square McDonald's on 782 State Street in Springfield, Massachusetts. Go get yourself a McMuffin, go get yourself a McFlurry, go eat the food that professional basketball players have spent their entire lives purposely avoiding. And sure, it is worth noting that this particular McDonald's has not always gotten the best marks for its customer service, but hey, maybe if more people know about the significance of this McDonald's, and maybe if more people go there, maybe they'll hire better employees. Or maybe not, and maybe that shouldn't happen, because if it doesn't, maybe it'll close down one day, and maybe then it can become the actual landmark to basketball that it's supposed to be. But either way, now you know.